and everything that has to do with it. We have done genetics, and most of those parts I would say I have a test, I don't want to share the text because a young PhD trust me. I would have shared the textbook. Most of the things, every time I teach you a class, I go home to work on it. So that contains all the notes of everything. And I've been working on the textbook for a while. It's something I would have just shared with everybody. But before you know it, now I came out so that's why. So when I can share that part, so all the notes on biomes, habitats, zones, and everything, I'll share with you. So you have the notes on the last one we did. So you can listen and listen. And then you have it. So we have done genetics, evolution, adaptation, to some extent succession, and we have also talked about variation and everything that has to do with all those parts. And which means that if you look at it deeply, if you have been following the classes from day one, you are almost getting okay with your biology. If you have been following the classes from day one and you have been solving questions, you have not been lazy, you have been doing what you are supposed to do, you are actually almost okay with your biology. That's the sincere truth. So you are only left with systems, and systems are not that difficult. So whatever system I'm starting today, by God's grace, I must end it today. So I'm going to summarize it, so you should follow and listen. So it's not that hard. So today I will be talking about respiratory system. And for respiratory system, I'm not going to dictate notes. I'm going to break it down, all the important things you need to know. So after the class, you try your best to solve questions on everything. And if there's any question confusing you, then you can let me know. So, for some reasons, so in biology, it is important that we produce energy. A whole lot of you, when you are fasting, you know at that point in time, you get kind of weak. All because you really do not have food that can be broken down to give you energy. So you really do not have that energy to work, to do things, to carry out day-to-day activities. And so if you do not eat properly and you don't have energy, you might not be able to carry out the life functions. So the process in which you produce energy that you make use of every time is what we study here in respiration. So respiration is not just I took in air and I breathe out air. You are producing energy. So respiration is an oxidative process that whereby you break down food that you have eaten, and the usable form of your food when it comes to carbohydrates is glucose. Abi? So when you eat, any food you eat, for the carbohydrates it needs to be broken down. You have done digestive system. Abi? Your protein will be broken down to amino acid, carbohydrates will be broken down to glucose. For protein, all those ones too, there's a pathway to break them down. There's a pathway to break down fats and oils too. But the one that can quickly give you energy is glucose. But the one that gives you the highest form of energy is fats. Anything that has to do with fats gives you highest form of energy. But anything that gives you quick energy, that is glucose, that is the sugar, that's carbohydrate. So how do you get energy from carbohydrates? is what we do here in respiration. So if you are defining respiration, respiration is technically the oxidative degradation of food. Oxidative degradation of food, so to say, to produce energy and CO2, water as byproducts. That is respiration. The oxidative degradation or the breaking down of food to produce energy in the presence of oxygen majorly. Then you produce energy. Energy is what you use. Then you release CO2 and water as byproducts. Then that is what we call respiration. So it's not just the process whereby I breathe in air and I breathe out air. No. Breathing is different from respiration. Even sometimes when you block your nose, you block everything, you might still carry out respiration anaerobically in your muscles and all of those things. So now this is an equation to give you that definition. You have your food, which is glucose. When you break down this food in the presence of oxygen, you have energy. The useful form that you have, the energy, is ATP. And that is called the energy currency. Plus CO2, plus water. These CO2 and water, they are called byproducts. Byproducts of respiration. Then you can produce heat as waste energy. This one is known as wasteful energy. So ATP is what you make use of. Is the naira, is the currency you spend. Every time you want to do anything, that energy you are spending, you are paying. How are you paying? You pay it in this term. So what you have in you that has been stored is what we call ATP. So ATP is defined as the energy currency that you spend. That's energy currency. It's just like you want to buy food and you pay. So whatever you do too, you pay for it. And you pay for it using ATP as your currency. So we call it energy currency. And this energy currency, the full name is adenosine triphosphate. So they can ask you, the energy currency is ATP. Although based on the processes of respiration, they can still ask you what amount of ATP did you produce, but as we are going on, we are going to see it. So now, this is respiration technically. The breaking down of food, majorly in the presence of oxygen, but you can also carry out in the absence of oxygen. Breaking down of food in the presence of oxygen to produce energy as the main product, and CO2 and H2O as the byproduct, and heat energy as the waste product. I hope you are following. Now, when you look at respiration, we have two types of respiration. We have two major types of respiration. First is called aerobic respiration. Aerobic means that the respiration requires oxygen. So some organisms, before they produce their energy, they need oxygen. So it is a type of respiration that takes place in the presence of oxygen. And usually that takes place in what we call mitochondria. It's an oxidative phosphorylation. It's an oxidative process. So when your respiration requires oxygen, then you call it aerobic respiration. It's a basic term that even if you are just new to anything, you will know. So this formula applies for aerobic. So without repeating this formula, let's just say this equation is represented as E. So if you're talking about aerobic respiration, this is the type of equation you should have. So you can write that equation here. That means the production of energy in the presence of what? Oxygen. Are you getting what I'm saying? Are you lost? So if you have a question, you should let me know. Now, the second type of respiration is called anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic. And anaerobic means that this takes place in the absence of oxygen. In the absence of oxygen. And there are two types of anaerobic respiration. We have what we call alcoholic fermentation. This one takes place in microorganisms. So anaerobic respiration usually takes place in microorganisms. They carry out respiration in the absence of oxygen, and they produce alcohol and CO2 as byproducts with their energy. So they can ask you, this usually takes place in mitochondria. There is no time to waste. Now, for anaerobic or alcoholic fermentation, the sugar, the glucose, that wasted time. So the glucose, in the absence of oxygen, is broken down into alcohol and carbon dioxide plus energy. But this process used to lead to 2 ATPs. Just 2 ATPs is what you used to have. And this usually takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. Aerobic respiration takes place in mitochondria. I want to believe everyone in this place knows the difference between mitochondria and cytoplasm. You should know the structure of the cell. So, now, this anaerobic respiration that takes place in cytoplasm of the organism, they will break down glucose and they will produce alcohol and CO2 as byproducts. Then energy is produced. Then the second type of fermentation or anaerobic respiration takes place majorly in humans or some other animals like dogs. It takes place in their muscles. So let me not generalize it to humans. So it takes place in muscles. This one is called lactic acid fermentation. So if there is no oxygen, humans can force respiration to take place. So if you're running and you need oxygen, after you have run for a very long time and you have exhausted the oxygen you have, and you can't really break down food again using oxygen because you are breathing so hard, then at the end of the day, your muscles will start breaking down that glucose under force. And by the time they break down glucose, they are going to produce lactic acid. And this lactic acid will accumulate in your muscles. So if you're an athlete or a footballer, sometimes you realize that you have cramps in muscles. All because of the presence or the accumulation of this lactic acid. So in the absence of oxygen, glucose can be broken down to give a chemical called lactic acid plus CO2 plus energy. So this is also a type of anaerobic respiration that takes place in the muscle. So they can ask you. Now, one of the problems with this is if you produce lactic acid in your muscle and there is accumulation of it, accumulation of lactic acid leads to muscle cramp. So you start having muscle cramps because the lactic acid has accumulated in your muscles. Then at the end of the day, you now have to breathe so fast. And when you are breathing so fast, you are bringing in oxygen under force. Now, this glucose that you broke down, you broke it down forcefully because there is no oxygen, but you broke it down. Now you produce lactic acid. That lactic acid must also be broken down again. The amount of oxygen you need to break down this lactic acid is what we now call oxygen debt. Oxygen gbèsè sílẹ̀ torí pé o ti force, you are forced what will not happen normally to happen. So you are owing something. So when you now produce this lactic acid, the lactic acid must be broken down as well. Now what helps you to break down the lactic acid is still oxygen. So when you are now breathing oxygen, so the amount of oxygen you now need to break down this lactic acid in your muscle, we call it oxygen debt. Do you understand my point? So lactic acid is broken down using oxygen. The amount of oxygen needed is termed oxygen debt. Is that taken? So if you're going to see questions on respiration, it's probably just going to be one question. It's going to be one question. Sherry Boba, our topics that she's saying, take them so serious. If you really want to do so well in your biology, take them so serious. Ecology, genetics, evolution, adaptation, you can't avoid it to see questions. This topic we are doing now, they can ask you just a single question, but it does not matter. Out of 40 questions, if they ask you one question, to them back, Oku 39. Abi, Oku 39. So you can't afford to miss any question. Just prepare so hard. So everything you need to know are the things I'm saying right now. That anytime they ask you, if you start reading, you too should be able to express yourself. So it's not about stories. So now, are you through with this? You know how we produce lactic acid under force, Abi? So if they ask you that, where does lactic acid fermentation take place? In which part of the body? The muscles. Is that taken? Now for alcoholic fermentation, you need microorganisms sometimes. And those microorganisms can be yeasts to carry out alcoholic fermentation. Are you there? So now, you can now hear this statement, which is not common in JAMB, but you can hear it. It's not a common question in JAMB. Anaerobic respiration can also be of two types. I hope you are following. There are two types of anaerobic respiration. We have what we call obligate anaerobes. Obligate anaerobes, and we have what we call facultative anaerobes. Obligate anaerobes. The word obligate means with certainty. I hope you are following. Economy continue. Should you are fasting, you are still eating it. Oh my God. Pay ultimate attention. Attention is what will help you. When I was in university, I had some of our lecturers that they are fond of notes. Immediately they come to the class, they just open notes. Where did you stop the last time? They will continue from there. Blah, 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 blah. So there are different lecturers. From the one that me have been teaching, although if there had been time, I would have loved to give you comprehensive notes and deep detailed notes. There are a lot of things that I can give you. But if you pay attention and you listen to what I'm saying, I'm sure that whenever they ask you a question on respiration, you will answer it. Because we don't have time. February is gone, Abby. What do you have next? March. You only have 1 month left. And after March now, April is the exam already. So that April will now determine those that will write again in 2027. And those that, because they can't admit everybody, that's the sincere truth. So it now depends on your mentality now. So be careful. And I have a lecturer that when he comes to class, he just starts explaining, start talking. He does not even care whether you are writing or you are not writing. He just explain. As much as possible, I always make sure I write. As he's saying it, I'm writing, I'm listening, and get what he's saying. And even at the end, when it's now like some days to exam, he will now release his material. And the material can be like this. And people will now be scared. How do we read? How do we read? But when they are supposed to pay attention, when he was listening, and most of the things we asked in the exam were in those things he had said. So most of my classmates, we have to come and get my notes and go and photocopy my notes. That's what they need for exams. So pay attention. It's not everything that they are. It's not rocket science. I can give you the notes. Normally, if I take respiration, it will take us time too. As simple as the topic is, it will take us time. I will even have to explain glycolysis very well, explain Krebs cycle very well. All of those things. But what I'm saying now is not so hard, even if you are just getting to SS1. It's not so hard. So some of you be looking like, God will help you. So we have two types of anaerobic respiration, which is obligate anaerobes or facultative anaerobes. You just need to know. The word obligate means anytime you see it in biology, it means that organism cannot do without it. It is compulsory. It is obligatory. So if I say obligate anaerobes, that means that those organisms can only survive in the absence of oxygen. You know, anaerobic means carrying out respiration in the absence of oxygen. Abi? So if I now say obligate anaerobes, it means they only carry out respiration in the absence of oxygen. If oxygen is present, those organisms will die. That is what that word means. But facultative, if there is oxygen, they are good to go. If there is no oxygen, they are still okay. They can carry out respiration in the presence, and it is common to microorganisms. So they can ask you, or you can see it in your exams. Just note what these two statements are saying. This one can only survive in the absence of oxygen. Is that taking? Are we following? Yes. Or we should stop the class if you are tired. So those are the two types of respiration. Now, what are the organs of respiration? They can ask you quickly. For an organism to carry out respiration or breathing, there are some organs they use, which are common questions too, you can see. Most lower organisms, like the protozoans, so can I rub this part? Eh? So you can quickly list them one after the other. Organisms in a tabular form. Respiratory structures. And it over mature no longer score above 300. So it's not even about walk away. It's not about that. It's not about you read or you read. It's not about the number of times you attended classes. It's people that are mature that will still be doing. Education requires maturity too. So stop acting like babies every time. You are no longer babies. A lot of you are 16 already. Try your best to be mature. Negligence is lack of maturity. you are not really getting something, you pay attention. Then after the class, meet one or two persons that understands it. Let them teach you. So it's someone that is not mature that will care about what people say about you. If you are not mature, so that someone now abuse me that me I don't know. Show more, we tell them, show one more. But why should you be bothered? Why can't you just meet with people that can teach you and learn and move on with your life? Then ẹni tó bá fẹ́ tó ẹjọ́ ẹ̀kú lọ tó problem tí ẹ̀ nìyẹn. So a lot of things require maturity, a lot. So please, as much as possible, I'm sure that the way I'm saying it, some people are happy, they are getting it, a lot of them are getting what I'm saying. But some people have this attitude of negligence. And there are a lot of them that don't understand Yoruba in this class. So I can't keep using Yoruba to explain to you. And we can't be spelling things. This is JAMB class, not WAEC class. Nobody, you won't get to JAMB the exam or now, they will say define respiration. They will give you questions to show they understand them. So nobody wants you to define. So nǹkan tí mo sọ yìí kó kàn máa wẹ̀ lórí bí mo ṣe ń sọ kó lè ra máa kọ̀ọ̀kan tó lè fi rántí. It's as simple as that. Ìgbà tí bá wá pẹ́ respiration tí wọ́n á lo 1 year lórí respiration, you are supposed to even send me out of the class. So for organisms, for lower organisms, protozoans, poriferas, cnidarians, platyhemids, and so on, nematodes, if I can still remember them. Most of these lower organisms, they use their body surfaces. Why they are able to use their body surface, we are going to talk about it. You know, if you want to break down food, you need oxygen, Abby. So that's where breathing comes in. So you have to breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. So your breathing is how you take in oxygen. But there are some organisms that it's just their body surface. Imagine I close my nose now, I close my mouth. Before you know it, I start getting choked up. I might suffocate because air comes in through my nose and it gets to my lungs. But there are some organisms that don't really have lungs. They are very small. And all they just need is the air to diffuse through their body and make use of whatever they will make use of. They are just single cell. And being a single cell, they themselves, they are cells. And a cell contains mitochondria, contains a lot of things. So all they just need is the gas to diffuse through their body and they carry out the breaking down of food. As simple as it is. So, for molluscas use Ctenidia. Ctenidia is present in the mantle of molluscas. They use that for respiration. You have most of your echinoderms. Echinoderms use what we call two feet for respiration. We have, let me just take the arthropods. For the arthropods generally, aside the insects and the likes, they use gills. Majority of them use gills, especially the crustaceans and the likes. But for insects use trachea system. Or you put in the bracket spiracle. So they use spiracle. Spiracle is an opening. I will draw it later, you will see. So it's an opening where air comes in an insect. They are just holes, just like your own nose. Their own opening is called spiracle. Then we have which other organism? Let me start from the fishes. What do the fishes use? They use gills. Amphibians. What do amphibians use? They use mouths. Mouth is called buccal, Abby. Buccal respiration. They use skin. Skin is called cutaneous respiration. And they use lungs. Lungs is called pulmonary respiration. Please, whatever you do, don't waste time on all these systems. Don't waste time. At least when you are getting to the middle of March, you should have finished everything biology, so that you can now do some marathon revisions again. Then your teachers will just start solving questions with you. The marathon revision will not be to teach, it will just be to discuss together. Oh, you remember, you just start genetics, everybody will just start discussing it. Do you get my point? Because if you start saying, hey, I want to teach it again, you will still use almost like 3 months, no matter how fast. So it's just discussion. So while you are discussing it, anybody that just joined the class, because there are different ways to this thing. Some of you have joined since September, and you have been working so hard. Some people joined around January. Some people are just joining this week. Now, anybody joining this week too should not come with the mindset that they should go and start from the beginning and explain and explain. One topic alone can even you can spend 1 month. Last year now, they've completed the syllabus. In January, we started all over again. And now we're about to complete it. So when it gets to middle of March, when it is completed, within the end of the week for that March, before mock, then all you just have to do is come to class, discuss all of these things. You can give assignments. I'll discuss with the teachers too. You can give assignments on the topic you have to discuss tomorrow. So you two, you go home, you prepare for it. When you come, everybody start talking about it. You pick questions, you start solving together with perfect understanding. So that don't forsake the brethren of all of you. So that it will be like a good discussion class every time you come and know with maturity. And at the end, you will see that all of you go to exam one and do well. So just because at the end, by the time we finish the syllabus, I'll say, oh, let's go and start again because of those that just joined. At the end of the day, we'll be taking time. Whereas those that have joined things, when it gets to a stage, the only thing you should be doing is questions. Questions. Practice every available questions. In my end, don't sleep. I already told you this fasting period, you know, you have a lot you are doing. So I told you then that you have to manage yourself very well. If it is to beg your parents that you don't have to join them in cooking, thought it can be 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, 30 minutes in Dano. Nobody people must sell or so step, we have to sell or so step. Come on, baby, what you can't jail, nobody Jimmy that but nobody that you know they didn't Gary. Ó ti jẹ́ sáré nìyẹn ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ tàbí kó ti lọ́bẹ̀ nílẹ̀ ọbẹ̀ tó bá nílẹ̀ sáré jí in 10 minutes to the break quickly make ẹ̀bà inú ẹ̀ lé yàbí tí sáré tó bá ti kọjá 5 tó bá jẹ́ sáré ṣebí is 5 5:30. They have adjusted time. It's fine, you are used to know. So please maintain yourself very well. So in case you are at home, kò ń ṣe wọ́n ní kò ti jí ní 10 o'clock lálẹ́, kò ti máa wó oúnjẹ kí ní gbogbo lé, kò bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ń dáná. Please beg your parents, you have exams now. Maintain yourself very well, please. Kò sí kan tó pẹ́ pẹ́ ló jẹ by now. Even tó bá jẹ sàrí wá survive. After AIDS, which ones are there? Amphibians. You have reptiles, Adi. For reptiles, their respiratory structure is lungs. All the ones that are left is lungs. For apes are birds. They also use lungs. But apes require extra energy. They use energy a lot. So they fly up with all the stress and everything. You go and fly and feel it. So they can ask you that why is it that apes can fly, or how do they survive the flights and a whole lot of things? Their streamlined body, then their light bones, then they have what we call, in addition to lungs, they have what we call ear sacs. They have ear sacs. Are you there? Then aside apes, you now have mammals. We now, what do we use to? So mammal use lungs. So that's about respiratory structure. Spider use lung group. Is that their respiratory or excretory? So spider, they use lung group. Don't forget. Thank you. So now, let me just quickly explain how this takes place for humans so that you understand the rest of the things you want to do. If you are to breathe for humans now so that you understand what next you want to talk about, what is involved is the lungs. We have two lungs. We have the left lung and the right lung and the left lung. The left lung is divided into 2 lobes. The right lung is divided into 3 lobes. But these lungs, there's a way respiration takes place inside. There's a structure called alveoli. That alveoli, you know, normally you have blood that is flowing through your body. Your head, after eating, so when you breathe in, as I am talking now, I'm breathing in. Are you sure? Why are you saying this? So when I breathe in oxygen, I breathe in air, not oxygen per se. When I breathe in air, the air goes through my pharynx, then to my larynx, to the trachea, the windpipe, then it goes through the bronchi, and from there to the bronchioles, and from the bronchioles to the alveoli. So the air that is entering, when it gets to the alveoli, it will be absorbed. Then it will go into your bloodstream. Then there's something that will carry it in your blood. That is called hemoglobin. Abi? Then the oxygen in your ear will bind to the hemoglobin and it will carry it to the intestine or everywhere it's needed. Then all the food that has been absorbed at your intestine, small intestine, your digestive system. So that food that is absorbed at the small intestine will now be broken down. Then they go to all your cells and everything. Your cells would have absorbed the food. Then it starts getting broken down. Now, there's what we call respiratory surfaces. If I want something to pass from here to the other side, what are the things that this surface must have? If I want gas to move from here to the other side, what are the things you feel? Should this space, should it be dry or should it be wet? If I want gases to diffuse through it and move to the other side, should it be dry or wet? Yes. You know, by the time it's wet, those gases will dissolve inside, Abby, and they will pass to the other side. So, they can now ask you, what are the properties of a respiratory surface? I'm not trying to divert, but I want you to follow. So you have respiratory surfaces. For a respiratory surface, it must be moist. So if it's the oxygen or those gases that you carry out gaseous exchange, it must be moist. And why must it be moist? So that the gases can dissolve. Is that taken? That's one. Number two is that the surface you have must have what we call large area to volume ratio. Large area to volume ratio is just talking about it shouldn't be too far for the gas to diffuse. For smaller organisms now, because they have large area to volume ratio, so they don't need a special mechanism. They are small, so the oxygen will just diffuse through their body. But for someone like me now that I have so many complicated organs, the oxygen has to travel so far. And when it is getting to the alveoli will now provide a surface for the oxygen to diffuse. So the surface must be of large area compared to the size of the organism. Large area to volume ratio. So for a smaller organism, they always have large area of exposure compared to the size of the organism. Large area to volume ratio. So that's one. Then another thing is that surface, I told you that when the oxygen is coming, something will help you to carry that oxygen, and that will help you to carry it is your hemoglobin, Abi. So which means that it must be highly capillarized, or it must contain high capillary.
So should they have the same large area to volume ratio?
No, the surface. It's just the surface, the alveoli itself, not the organism. The respiratory surface is what we are talking about.
Then it should be the same thing with that of this guy.
Yes, but the smaller organisms use their body surface. So, and why are they able to use their body surface? Because they have large area already to their volume ratio. But you need your lungs before the oxygen will get to the alveoli. So the surface where the oxygen will not be exchanged must also have a large area to volume ratio. So it's not the lungs, it's not the organism now, it's the surface, the respiratory surface. Where does respiration take place for this organism? Their body surface. Why is it able to take place on their body surface? Because that surface already has a large area compared to their size. So which means that alveoli too for humans must also have a large area compared to volume ratio in order for the oxygen to diffuse. So it's not the organism we are talking about in particular. So, and that place, there must be high capillaries. Capillaries are blood vessels. You are supposed to do transport system too, so that you know some of these things. But you do transport system. So capillaries are blood vessels where exchange of things take place. You have the vein, you have the arteries, and you have the capillaries. Then you also have, the surface must also be thin in order to travel a short distance. The surface must be thin. So in Kotobama absorb no. If this wall is too thick, it won't be easy to travel across. But if it's very tiny, then it can travel across it. Then it must be highly ventilated too. That means gases must be able to travel inside easily. Must be highly ventilated. So what else? Same moist, large area, high capillaries, ventilated. Those are okay. Then it must be freely permeable to gases. So respiratory surface must be freely permeable to gases, but to some ions, that's to separate them. So these are the characteristics of the respiratory surface. So now, what is the difference between breathing and respiration? What's the difference between breathing and respiration? Quickly. Breathing is just talking about gaseous exchange. Gaseous exchange. Are you breathing? Yes, you are. you can actually be breathing and not be able to carry out respiration at a very good rate. So, what happens externally? So, breathing is usually external. You are bringing in oxygen, you are taking out carbon dioxide. That's called external respiration, breathing. But for respiration, it usually involves oxidation of food. Oxidation of food. And it can be both internal and external. It can be both internal and external. Another thing about breathing is that no enzyme is involved. It is a physical process. It's a physical process. But for respiration, it is biochemical process. It is a biochemical process. For breathing, you don't need enzyme. For respiration, there are a lot of enzymes involved. There are a lot of enzymes involved in respiration, but no enzyme is involved in, you have exokinase, photofructokinase, and so on. But that's when you now get to a level, you now start studying all those enzymes. From glucose, during post-UTME, you should learn it. You will learn everything during post-UTME. So, enzymes are involved here. There are a lot of enzymes. Here, no energy is released. No energy released. But yet, you release energy. So, let me stop there. So, the normal taking in of air and taking out of air is what we generally call breathing. So, are you respiring? Are you carrying out respiration? Are you breathing? They are two different things. So, can we move on? Now that you know this, let's now look at mechanisms of respiration quickly. Mechanisms of respiration. Let me see those questions before. But the funniest thing is that you see the shape of that one about the question. But the other thing, yes, the question was one question. After class on Monday, the question, she will join class. You have the question as well. Someone is already asking how many ATPs in aerobic respiration. I'm going to tell you, but the total is 38. 38 for those that ask. But I'm going to still tell you, but it's 38. You have to, if you have both air sacs and lungs for AIDS, you pick lungs. You pick lungs. But if you don't have both, you pick air sacs. I was looking for you now. Sir, to my knowledge. Yes, that's true. Tadpole use for respiration. And they can use respiratory surface. Is that okay? So, for mechanisms of respiration, let's look at it. We already said some use body surface. And they're able to use their body surface because they have what we call large area to volume ratio. Because the body size is going to be smaller and the area they expose is going to be bigger. So when you say area over volume, you get a larger value. So for the mechanisms, I'm going to start with quickly. Let me start with amphibians. Amphibians. How do amphibians, or let me start with fishes. When fish want to breed, how do they breed? They have what we call a structure like this. So this structure is called gill filaments. Gill filaments. This structure is called gill arc. Why these ones are called gill rakers. So when many of you have seen fishes before, and you know that gills when you open their neck around here, Abby. So you see that one of that part is usually full of blood when you are washing and washing and washing. So that part is your gill filament, where that is where that gaseous exchange takes place. So gaseous exchange takes place here. The gill arc is just what gives it its structure. How all those things look. The gill raker helps to filter food. Helps to filter food. That's gill raker. So gill raker helps to filter the food, while gill filaments helps to carry out gaseous exchange. You can ask you. So now in fishes, what is the mechanism? What always happens is that I'm coming, please. They will first is when they want to breathe during inhalation. They will close their operculum. That's the first thing. They will close their operculum. Operculum is called gill cover. Is that taken? That's what covers the gill. That's what you use to first open. So when they close their operculum, then they will open mouth. They will open their mouth. Then when they open their mouth, they lower their jaw. So automatically February, they will open their mouth, they lower the jaw. Then water will rush in. Water with dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen rush in. Then after water has been collected very well in their mouths, then they will raise their jaw. So they will raise the jaw and close the mouth. So as they are closing the mouth, the operculum will open. Operculum opens. Then when the operculum opens, water rush through that part to come out of the fish. So water passes through the gills, and water passes through the gills and the filaments, absorbs the oxygen. Filaments absorbs the oxygen and CO2 is passed out. So that's what happens in fishes. So lower the jaw, open the mouth, water rushes in, and water already has dissolved oxygen. And after that, there's no way to share the name.
Nice, you class.
attend to that person before I come and finish it. So in a situation where the lung is punctured and you are called the ambulance and you want to save such an individual or keep him alive till the doctor arrives, what should such a person? Please, where is the lung? Maybe that's the question I should ask you. Tell me all the parts of your body, because you should not embarrass our generations outside, especially if you are a primary student. So why is it advisable not to give a person who is why is it advisable not to give a person who is profusely or why is it advisable not to give water to a person that is bleeding profusely or excessive? Why is it? Okay. So the bad every question, come and see as a doctor, you pay for consultants. I'll give you consultation. They will close mouth and open nostrils. They will close mouth and open nostrils. Then they will lower their jaws. They will lower their jaws. Then ear rush. And some diffuse. Through the blood vessels. Some will diffuse at the mouth through the blood vessels, and we call that local respiration. Then they will close the mouth. Yes, air rushing through the nostrils. Then they will raise the jaw. So when they raise the jaw, while the mouth is closed, then the air pressure rises, air pressure increases, and air is pushed to the lungs. The air pressure rises and air is pushed to the lungs, and they carry out respiration again. Underwater, they majorly carry out respiration using their skin. Underwater. That is when it is moist. So they carry out respiration using skin inside water. So for humans, can I rub this? When we take in here, we call it inhalation. Inhalation. So we inhale here. Then when we take out here, we call it exhalation or expiration. This is also called like inspiration. So during inhalation, what happens? Air enters your nose. So you breathe in through your nose. And I want to believe you all know that you only use one part of your nose to breathe. Do you know that you use one part of your nose to breathe? Put hand in one hole and breathe. Try to blow the air. Put hand in the second one and blow it. So, did you see it? Block this one. Block. I don't know. For my own. This is the one working correctly. It will change. It can change after some hours. This one will start working after some hours. This one will stop. If you block this now, for me, this one is working. I can feel the air. But for this, so you only use one nose to carry out gaseous exchange, not the two. So now when air comes in through your nose, from your nose it goes through the pharynx. Let me first do this. From your nose it goes through the pharynx, then from pharynx through your trachea, then from your trachea, can I rub this? From your trachea to your bronchi, from your bronchi to your bronchioles, then from bronchioles to alveoli, where oxygen will be given out and picked up by hemoglobin. And when it is picked up by hemoglobin, it forms what we call oxyhemoglobin. Then CO2 will be given out by the hemoglobin. And CO2 will go and diffuse out. So, during inhalation, when you breathe in here, then I want us to quickly finish this thing. Can't go over it again. So you go and solve questions on it. You will know you are through with respiratory system. There's nothing much there. So, one of the things you notice is that when you breathe in, your chest will rise up, Abby. So, your ribs are raised. Ribs are raised. So, your ribs are raised. Another thing you notice is that your external intercostal muscles contracts. Your external intercostal muscles will contract while the internal relax. Your muscles, they are antagonistic. What happens to the other? The opposite happens to what you have. If I do like this now, This part now I'm contracting it. This part is relaxing. My biceps contracts, my triceps relax. If I do this, my triceps contracts, my biceps relax. So that's how muscles work. And that's how you're able to move things around. They antagonize. So your external intercostal muscles contract. There are some muscles that join the part of your ribs together. So they contract when you are breathing in. While the one inside and internal intercostal muscles. While the internal intercostal muscles relax. Is that taking? That's what happens. Opposite of everything I'm saying is what we will do for exhalation. So now what else will happen? There is diaphragm. I'm going to quickly draw the diagram to explain again. There is diaphragm. Diaphragm is a muscle that is present at your lower parts here, the lower parts of your thoracic cavity. So your ribs are resting on it. So the diaphragm contracts during inhalation. It contracts. Contract means that it will go flattened. When it goes back to its original shape, that's when you say it is relaxing. It's relaxing. When it goes back to how it used to be. So for contraction, it used to be, normally it's like this in shape. But during contraction, it becomes something like this. It becomes flattened. Because as this one is raised, this one is pushed down. Then so that there will be enough space in your lungs. Because the lungs have gotten swollen like balloon. So lungs are inflated. So when lungs get inflated, that means the volume of the lungs or the volume of air in the lungs, volume of the thoracic cavity increases. Volume of thoracic cavity increases while pressure decreases. So please note this. So the volume of your chest, your thoracic cavity will increase when you breathe in air, while the pressure of that chest will decrease. So you have here like Boyle's law, V is inversely related to P. If volume increases, pressure decreases, and your internal temperature is kept constant. So that's what we have for inspiration, meaning that opposite of this applies for expiration. Quick diagrammatic representation of the stories. Can I rub this part? No. This part, this part. So for simplicity, so air comes in through your nasal cavity, then enters the trachea tube. So the trachea tube, also known as your windpipe, then from there to the bronchi, then from bronchi to the smaller bronchi, called bronchioles. Then from there you have alveoli, where gaseous exchange takes place. Then the diaphragm is the muscle. So when your chest increases, this part will go down. So that's what we mean by diaphragm contracts. So it contracts. So that's the diagram for humans. So learn it. So the last part that you need to know after this is glycolysis and Krebs cycle. How ATP is produced. But let me just summarize it for you because some things are not meant for you for now. But during post-UTME, you will learn proper Krebs cycle and glycolysis. So, when you eat and you have glucose and you need to produce energy, we have what we call oxidative phosphorylation. Which usually starts with glycolysis, process whereby we start producing energy. So we want to produce energy. The energy is ATP. So how do we produce energy? It starts with glycolysis. And from the word glycolysis, it's just like the breaking down of glucose. So you break down glucose. Glycolysis is a process whereby glucose is broken down to give pyruvates. So one of the things you need to know is that during this glycolytic process, glucose is a 6 carbon, pyruvate is a 3 carbon. You need to know that. Which means that from one glucose, how many pyruvates do we have? How many pyruvates can we have from one glucose? If I say glucose is 6 carbon and this one is 3 carbon, how many pyruvates can we have? 2. Then, during this process, let me put it this way. You are going to use 2 ATP. ROE means usage now. And you are going to generate 4 ATPs. During glycolysis, there's an investment stage. So the investment stage is the process where you will use 2 ATP. Sometimes when you want to make profits, you need to also spend money. So you spend energy to produce energy. So the amount of energy you spend is 2 ATP. But the amount you produce in total is 4 ATP. So this 4 ATP is called your gross products. Your gross products. So at the end of the day, you know you use 2 and you produce 4, meaning that only 2 is what you have actually produced. You have to pay back your debt. When you are working, you invest 50,000, you make 100,000. How much did you gain? 50,000. Abi, it's not the 100,000 you gained. You gained 50,000. So if you use 2 ATP and produce 4 ATPs, that means in essence, it is only 2 ATPs you have produced. So at your level, if they ask you, how many ATPs do you produce during glycolysis? It is 2. It is 2. Because you would have paid back the 2. But if they want to be specific, they can now say gross products. Then that means how many? 4. The net products. That means after you pay back 2 now, then your net product is going to be, if I'm not mistaken this, I will help you confirm that later. If I'm not taking gross for net, it's correct, Abi. So thank you. So your gross product is the one you get in total, and that is because that one net is something like everything to me. So that's 4 ATPs. But if they now say what is your net product, that is 2 ATP. Is that taken? So this is glycolysis. Another question they can ask you in glycolysis is that where does it take place? It takes place in the cytoplasm. It takes place in cytoplasm. Then where does it take place is different from when does it take place. When does it take place? It takes place under anaerobic condition. Anaerobic condition. So it takes place under anaerobic conditions, but it takes place inside the cytoplasm. Then how many ATPs do you produce? 2 ATPs. How many did you use? 2 ATPs. How many did you produce in total? 4 ATPs. So glycolysis is always the breakdown of glucose to pyruvate. If I still remember, it goes from glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, then from glucose 6-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate, then fructose 6-phosphate to fructose 1,6-biphosphate, then from there to dihydroxyacetone phosphate, then from there to glyceride 3-phosphate, then these two come together to give 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Then 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate will give 3-bisphosphoglycerate, 3-phosphoglycerate Then this will give phosphoenol pyruvate. Then the phosphoenol pyruvate will now give pyruvate. So you see what you are supposed to know that glycolysis. But all I just gave is this to this. This is what they will ask you in JAMB. They will now ask you to break down glycolytic pathway. So this is the pathway. And this is what is taking place inside of you. And a lot of times here, during this process, you will use 2 ATPs. During this process, you produce 4 ATPs. You will still do it. So don't be scared. You will do it. You are doing glycolytic pathway. So after the pyruvate has been produced, then this pyruvate, during post-UTME, don't worry, they will teach you everything. So you will still do it. Don't go and be resuming post-UTME class late, so especially if you are writing UI, Unilag, OAU, Unilorin, English, tó bá tẹ̀ tí mọ̀ English, Mr. Felix Dada, pass Unilorin. If you can apply. Most people that did Unilorin, I know that they understood English very well. They had 80 plus. So if you know Mr. Felix English, if you are writing Unilag, you just need maths and English and current affairs. Yes, once in a while. But maths and English and yes, so they used to ask 1 or 2 current affairs. There are 30 questions in Unilag questions. 30. But you never can tell, things can change. You must always be ready for anything. You are not brother the mentality. So you don't say they will just ask you English and maths. It might reach your turn, they will say it's English, biology, physics they want to ask you. So don't neglect anything. That's why I used to say during post-UTME class, don't say my school is only English and maths, and you are now neglecting. Everybody should even attend math class during post-UTME. Everybody. And you have to take it serious. Go and look at why many people are having problems. Now, universities have made it compulsory that everybody must do maths. It's not universities, NUC. Federal government, they have made it compulsory. So you don't get to university now and study medicine and you feel like I don't need maths. Why engineering mathematics? Alamu. Why you will do engineering mathematics in 100 level. You will do calculus, differentiation, functions, and it's better you should be hearing it now. Then you will do normal algebra. So they will teach you all those things. Everything mathematics you do in 100 level. As a medical student too, I did it. Even in when I did microbiology, I even did maths. But it's just that our maths was in 200 level. But this one, our funniest thing is during our sets, they did not send anybody out. They said, don't worry, because you people did not know before, and you have just come. You are going to do engineering maths. We went to this thing, we complained. They said, don't worry, you will not fail. Even if you fail maths, you will still move on. But we just forgive you because you people are just hearing it, and you did not really know. But now, you can go sodium to suffer. So they know that you saw that we were having classes for 100 level. We had classes for 100 level students just to teach them all those mathematics. It's tough. In our own class, just like check result, you see 40. How much more we do? I can't answer that question. Even me, I don't know the name of it. Now, please listen. Please, you are going to do maths. So those of you that are writing post-UTME, our post-UTME timetable is always all the subjects. English, physics, chemistry, biology, maths, current affairs. That's post-UTME timetable. if you are going to OAU, you are going to take both English and current affairs and aptitude. So they can tell you if 10 birds were on a tree and one bird was shot dead, how many birds are left? Ṣègbọ́n náà wà ìgbà tó bá rí question wà lóko ó kọjá náà. If it takes 10 cats to kill 100 rats, how many cats will it take to kill 1,000 rats? So there are a lot of current affairs. When the amalgamation take place, 1914, when the Nigerian coup, first coup take place, you have to know. So during your post-UTME, you will take current affairs. But if you are going to UI is always English. The normal thing you did in JAMB is what UI will ask you. But they will ask you in a way that is more complex. But that's what they will ask you. But Ilori is maths and English. But the English can be 45 questions and your maths will just be like 5 questions out of 50. So if Mr. Felix is teaching you and you want to go to Ilori and you don't always listen, don't go to Ilori. If you listen to Mr. Felix class very well, you are going to go to Ilori. You are going to go well. And your English and maths. So please be getting ready. You all will do maths. You will do maths virtually every day. And you have to take this serious. And what you spend more time reading your own subject, depending on the school you are doing. So these pyruvates will now be taken to prep cycle. I want to finish my biology because I know Friday, Saturday we might not do biology. It will just be physics, chemistry. So please, the next thing is prep cycle. So after glycolysis, you have Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle is also known as citric acid cycle. It is also known as tricarboxylic acid cycle. So a lot of things happen here too. A lot of things happen here. But the most times we will ask you, what product? What did you get? Yeah. Me, I used to remember this with what do I oxasusu, alpha ketoglucan. Okay, I always remember with acetyl, cis-is, alpha ketoglu, susufumalo. Acetyl, cis-is, alpha ketoglu, susufumalo. Ayẹlẹ ni ó wà ní modern biology. So this one is just, we have acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA to citrates to isocitrates. Don't worry, you don't need to know this for now. Isocitrates, alpha ketoglutarate, succinylCoA, CoA, succilates, mandates, fumarates, mandates, then oxaloacetate. So the pyruvates you have here, pyruvates, they can now ask you in JAMB. Pyruvates, listen to what they can ask you. Pyruvates you have produced here will be converted to acetyl-CoA. So this is called Krebs cycle. alpha acetyl cis is alpha ketoglu susulfumalo. That's how always remember it. So, but don't worry, during post-UTME you talk about everything. So, another question they can ask you in JAMB is that where does it take place? It takes place in mitochondria. It takes place in mitochondria. And you see why your mitochondria is called the powerhouse. During this Krebs cycle, 36 ATP will be produced. So they can ask you that how many ATP is generated during Krebs cycle. It is 36 ATP. How many ATPs did you have during glycolysis? 2 ATP. So 2 plus 36 is what? 38. So for breaking down one molecule of glucose, you are going to produce 38 ATPs. That's your JAMB question. Are you there? One molecule of glucose gives 38 ATPs. One molecule of glucose gives 38 ATPs. So one molecule of glucose gives 38 ATPs. During Krebs cycle, we have 36 ATPs. During glycolysis, we have 2 ATPs. And where does glycolysis take place? Cytoplasm. So this Krebs cycle is the aerobic part. So this is aerobic. So only organisms that can carry out aerobic respiration used to have great energy. But those that carry out anaerobic, they only have 2 ATP, so they don't have much energy like that. And they don't carry out many complex life functions. Unlike me now, I'm sweating, my heart is beating so fast, my lungs are expanding, contracting, I might want to have maturation, or even my excretion is going continuously. A lot of food, I'm not waiting. Food can be broken down, and fat and oil. Which substance gives you the highest form of energy? So please don't forget. All of those things have their cycles. And many of you used to want to run away from some courses and this thing because JAMB is tough. JAMB is tough. There are some departments that are tougher than medicine. It's not even only pharmacy. Even ordinary biochemistry department. Tí wọ́n máa ń rò pé àṣebí biochemistry ní kíkọ̀ ṣe biology àti chemistry. Mo mọ̀ dáadáa secondary school. In AU, you will do maths from part 1 to final year in biochemistry. It's one of the toughest departments in AU. When they're going biochemistry, you do biology and chemistry. You will learn. You will do engineering, mathematics. The only thing that makes medicine tough on campus is time. It's time. You can have class, you can have practicals back to back, so you're always busy from morning till night. And you will have, that short time you have to read everything you have done throughout the whole day. And you will be having presentations almost every time. So you won't have time for anything in medicine. You won't have time for anything. Except that you are still smart, that you can curate the time. That's the only thing. It's not tough. It's not tough, but there's no time. You can't crash read. You can't say, hey, I have the exam next week. So you have to read every day. But go and study chemistry, and you will know that some people are suffering. Go and study some engineering courses, you will know. OAU physics engineering, when they told me what gave me, the lecturers went to meet them that you are now in physics engineering. A lot of people used to face toughness challenges here. If you know you cannot go, you can go and take form and go to another department. here you are going to face a lot. Kò sẹ́ni tó máa sunkún sí lọ́rùn, and some people just carry their bag. Today you have to yam. Whereas some people face it. By the time they teach you physics, they teach you chemistry. To some level, you know that those courses are not easy. But there's nothing you cannot do. So if you run away from it, level tí medicine máa ń lé làwọn level admission. But when you get admission, it doesn't get easy. It doesn't get easy. You will need time. That's the only thing. You will need time. Your mates might be having fun, might be going out doing this, you can't have that time. Your mates might be discussing one or two things. You can't even see medical students around. You can't even see them. Everybody is disappear. If you go and check most of our primary students that are already in 400 level, 500 level, you can't see them. People that you still see that come around once in a while are probably those in 200 level, 300 level. But from clinical, from like 400 upward, our parents won't go only one day. Who are you? So that's the thing. Then I was thinking that they would give them like, OAE was even trying, OAE would give break. The last time OAE give them 4 months break after the first year. But now they release calendar that they will give you like 2 weeks break. So throughout your whole 6 years on campus, you might only have just like 1 or 2 weeks break in between. Yes, now, after exam and everything, you will be going to hospital for posting. And you will be writing reports, be reading every day. So that is it. Then what are the diseases of the lungs? We have different diseases of the lungs. Pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis. Pneumonia, asthma, bronchitis. They can just list them and say that which of the following is not a disease of the lung and all of those things. So you can check for them. Anytime you hear itis, itis means inflammation. Dermatitis, bronchitis, meningitis, bronchitis. So bronchitis is like inflammation of the lungs, inflammation of the bronchi. Asthma, what happened during asthmatic is that those bronchi, those holes, they are blocked. A lot of it are blocked already. So they find it hard to breathe in air. The air don't pass to their lungs easily. And that's why it feels like they want to suffocate if air did not get to the alveoli because it's blocked. But when they take their inhaler, the inhaler will make this thing to open. That's what it does. So when it makes it open, then the air will rush in and they can catch their breaths again. A lot of things can even be genetic. A lot of things. Just like the way blood vessels get blocked. It's not everything that is that easy. They can They can. There are some blood vessels that even when they are blocked, there are some things they can inject into the body and they will act like just like a pen. So it's it will drill and be opening it. But most of those things too, fats and all these things can block blood vessels and all. So that's why the type of food you eat, they tell you to watch it. Inflammation, bronchitis, dermatitis, and what do you call it that time? Meningitis. Meningitis is inflammation of part of the brain. Some meninges of the brain. The droit, the arachnoid, and the diamata. God will see you through. So that's all respiration. If there's any other question, we'll deal with it. So tomorrow we'll move on to the next system. Is that taken? So please solve all of the questions from your past question on this. If you have any question, we can talk about it later. So what's the time?